focus on pain. Blows my mind alone in my brain. I smell smoke from all of those flames. Fell in holes and hope for my grave. They told me smell the roses, but I burned the whole bouquet.
Tom, you'll never win the fight against your haters long as I listen. Cause I read every single comment that you try missing. Then recite them in your mind and memorize disses. I'm a giant, Thomas, why are you trying to fight with me?
I'm different, don't care about a height difference. I might win it, show up to a gunfight, knife swinging.
I am the darkness.
Yeah, I got night vision. I need to do this by myself. I told you twice already exactly how I felt. I'm the best rapper ever, I don't wanna be great. If they're the best, then I'm better, don't you make no mistake. Cause I'm the gold, feel it in my bones until I'm a ghost. I'm the one who pulls the sword out of the stone. Best ever. I'm the best rapper ever, I don't care what you say. I'm Da Vinci, I'm forever, I'm designed for the fake. Cause I'm the gold, get the kid thrown. Everybody knows, only voices that I'm hearing on my own. Best ever.
Aaron Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey everyone, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle here with you on a lunchtime live update here, about 11:45 as we kick off our Tuesday afternoon. We do have some storms to talk about, so if you joined me last night, you were like, what? Tornadoes? What are we talking about here? No one's really sounding alarms over tornadoes. Well, that changed this morning. I don't know who said what, because I don't pay attention to that stuff. I just know you guys sent me messages going, Aaron, why are you making such a big deal about this? Well, that's because it was important to, bring your awareness, because usually nighttime tornadoes is not something anybody wants to deal with. Obviously, they sneak up on you in the dark, and you really, half of you are probably in your pajamas already asleep by the time this goes on. So it's important to get the word out as soon as possible. So that's what we did last night. And today we're going to talk about that again, see if anything has changed. So thanks for joining me. Come to the right place at the right time. Right, was it what the old saying was? Right bat channel? I've forgotten it. It's been too long. But anyway, let's get on with the program here. So first off, we do have some clouds out there to speak of. Now we're going to get some sunshine coming on in this afternoon. It's got to warm things up. Should be a really great day overall. But you see temperatures will be warming up out of the 60s here at lunchtime onto the 70s. And humidity will continue to increase. It was cold this morning, but that'll change as well. Here's a look at part of the reason why for that. You can take a look down south, and these green numbers are the dew point values. So I'm going to kind of contrail about a 65-degree dew point here around Dallas-Fort Worth, and then back down south into the Waco area and Bryan College Station. So this unstable warm air is moving northbound. So this will be working its way, advecting into southwest and central Oklahoma, kind of in this little corridor as we head into this afternoon and overnight tonight. So that's a key ingredient we're going to need to produce this threat of severe weather as a storm system kind of comes in from the west. So speaking of which, this is what it looks like. This is the upper level storm system right here in the water vapor channel. This is a satellite view, and it does show it's spiraling around here in a counterclockwise fashion. And this guy here is just going to come just like this and right across Oklahoma over the next 24 hours. And as it does so, it's going to interact with that moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico that we talked about. It's feeding in this direction, and we're going to get some activity here back across the state, and it's not going to be the kind you like. Now, the other thing is, this is very small. It's a very compact, small storm system, but it's potent. How can you tell it's potent? Well, you see all this bright white you see enhancing on the eastern side of it, this enhancement right here in the cloud cover, that means that's a lot of lift, a lot of instability out ahead of it in a very small area. It means it's very compact. A lot of its kinetic energy is anchored right here. So it's like a bowling ball. And that's what's going to kind of help to keep things going overnight, when normally at nighttime we would see things kind of diminish. So it's a little different animal, plus we shouldn't be under the influence of some of the other negative factors that we usually experience at nighttime. All right, Storm Prediction Center. With all that said and done, looks like they came up with an updated risk here. They've got a enhanced now in northwest Oklahoma. into southern Kansas and the eastern Texas Panhandle. The tornado threat that they've drawn on the map now covers just about all of Oklahoma, down at Dallas, and then points eastward to southern Arkansas. So that's a large 5% ring. It's still a low probability. It's not like a guaranteed outbreak or anything like that as far as numerous tornadoes. It just means the low probability that we're going to see a few. In other words, it's more like a confidence factor plus a geographical, numbers game. It's kind of a complicated formula blend. But when you see those rings, you got to pay attention. That usually means we'll see a tornado, at least one or two in those rings. All right, so here's a look at the wind. Also, looks like across a big chunk of Oklahoma and also down in central Texas. And the hail threat has now boosted in northwest Oklahoma, the latest probabilities. And we talked about this last night. So some of the model data indicated up to around 4-inch size hailstones. That's huge, man. So it could be some big hail up there across northwest Oklahoma. So this is just new from the Storm Prediction Center. As a matter of fact, this wording just came out, so I even had a chance to read what they said. But let me just skim through here real quick. So they talked about what we mentioned last night. Weak cap, kind of keeping things quiet during the day. And then as the storm system approaches from the west, height falls ascent from the upper level storm system will begin to affect the eastern Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. At the initial onset of this, will favor elevated supercells with mainly large hail with isolated severe weather gusts. That's from southwestern Kansas on down into Oklahoma. Then the shear starts to increase a little bit in our neck of the woods. So storms should be rooted near the surface with deep layer shear and buoyancy favorable for supercells with very large hail in Oklahoma. Wind profiles will be also sufficient for some tornadoes, although uncertainty exists regarding the storm mode coverage with southward extent late in the period. All right, so that's kind of a duplicate of what they talked about last night. So nothing's really changed. They've kind of beefed up the wording a little bit, but outside of that, it seems just about the same. Let's see. Before I jump into that, let's do this one. So this is a close-up view from the National Weather Service in Norman. Well, it was, and then their graphics disappeared on me. Where'd that go? All right, well, I guess their website's going to some changes. What they probably do is they took off their old graphics and they're going to update it with the new SBC graphics. But what you can see is a winter storm watch on this map out here in northwest Oklahoma around Woodward. And why is that? Well, you guys can get some snow. We also talked about that last night as well. It's a powerful storm system, even though it's quite small. Okay, so this is going to take a look at the, remember the dew point values I was talking about down here in Texas? See those deep green colors? See how they expand northward with time here into Oklahoma as they kind of rush into central Oklahoma during the day? This is what also helps to keep us cap free. In other words, not so much of a strong lid in the atmosphere to produce, or prevent rather, storms overnight. So it's kind of a late to the party game, and when that happens, usually you don't get much of a cap involved. But you do get the moisture, so it's kind of a catch-22. And so this is around the midnight hour. As we head into the overnight hours, you see it kind of centered over central Oklahoma until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It starts to move off to the east, and that is because the storm system will continue to press through the state during that time. Okay, so analog guidance from past historical references of a similar type system coming through indicates a widespread area of severe weather reported across the state. That's for at least one report. Probability of 5 or more reports. It has it kind of clustered in 2 areas, northwest and then southwest and south central. But the point is not to get too specific on the exact placement, is that historically there is a signal for storms and severe weather at that. Okay, so this is the upper level low pressure system. Remember we showed it to you in the water vapor? This is what it looks like on a computer model display. So by midnight tonight, it's anchored out here across eastern New Mexico and the western Texas Panhandle. So what that does is it gets us in a nice diffluent pattern here in the mid-levels, which allows lift, in other words, rising motion to go up, and that's what helps to get those storms to fire off. And you see all this bright color represents strong positive vorticity advection, which also will help. Now, if we look into the mid-levels of this platform at the model, same situation, because the storm's stacked. It's vertical. It goes all the way from the top down to the surface. Well, at the 700 millibar level, we have an enormous amount of lift ongoing here in this red shading, both in northwest Oklahoma and all the way down here to west central Texas. This would be the kickoff. This, in other words, this is the forcer. This is what gets the storms to really fire up. So that's in place, and that's again at midnight. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of a little odd time of the day, but it is what it is, right? Okay, that will move on through during the overnight. So that's pretty much all I want to show you, I believe, on that panel. Now let me go back to this guy here, and I'm going to show you the mean threshold of the significant tornado parameter. All right, so the significant tornado parameter is when you put in a basket of ingredients, and it shows you where the most likelihood of seeing a tornado develop with the what can be developed in the atmosphere. In other words, it's where the tornado would lie, somewhere within this area. All right, so this is at let's go to, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So you can see how that brighter yellows over central western Oklahoma. 2, 3, you can see how they enhance. There's some reds in there. That just means it's stronger ingredients. And there's 4 o'clock in the morning, right over I-35 corridor, running north to south. 5 o'clock, it's east of that. And it diminishes with time here as we headed toward 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So the severe weather threat will diminish along with it, which is good news for you guys out in eastern Oklahoma. Now we'll also look at, let's do this. Let's do the helicity tracks. In other words, how many of these storms will be rotating that can produce some hail or damaging winds or maybe even a tornado. Well, if you look, there's a big cluster of them out here in northwest Oklahoma. As we go through time, you do see a few tracks right here over central Oklahoma. So that does mean we should see some supercells moving through overnight tonight. And again, those are the ones that produce the damaging winds and the large hail. All right, also what we'll have in place, we're going to have a weak front. So this is the little front I'll draw on here on the map for you like this. It goes down to the area of low pressure, which then kind of forms a dry line in this particular point. The front's actually kind of like this. This is, you could really call this a warm front. It's a battle zone. So you could, the cold air is trying to push in from the south, from the north, from those storms up north, and then you've got just the warm air advection trying to win out this way. So it's a battle zone of a. It's probably a semi-stationary front, but it should be creeping southward over time. But in the meantime, there's 11 o'clock at night. What I want to show you, though, is this area of low pressure out here. And it keeps the front. There's another pseudo area of low pressure here as well, just north and west of Oklahoma City. Let's see, as we head to 1 o'clock in the morning, that one kind of moves on up to northeast. We'll focus back here to this one. And the reason why this is important is if you can get an area of low pressure that develops along this boundary, it kind of holds it up a little bit, but it creates just a little extra wind shear, more of a east-southeast wind where you can get next to these little lows. And if that happens, that can sometimes increase the tornado potential in that area. But anyway, through 4 o'clock in the morning, we have kind of a south-southeast wind here in Oklahoma City, and then they start to diverge out here to the southwest, west side of town by 4 to 5 as the storm system moves through and the pattern starts to change, and this front kind of continues to sag southward. All right, so that's just kind of look at the boundary situation. Now let's take a look at the output of what the model thinks is going to happen. Now, again, this is a think, not necessarily a yes, but we're going to see what the latest is on this one. Let's see. I haven't been too excited with its output at this point in time, but it's been changing overnight, I've noticed, into this morning. So at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, it does have some elevated supercells breaking out already in western Oklahoma around Elk City southward. It's a little ahead of the curve. This will be a new trend, and also in southern Kansas and northwest Oklahoma. You see that kind of move through the northwestern quadrant of the state during the 10 o'clock hour into 11 o'clock through midnight. Now, all of these will be elevated in nature, meaning they'll be hail producers. So, for example, let's take a sample of the environment here to this one that's south of Enid, and we can tell you why. Okay, so it's got great shear, but there's one limiting factor, and that is down here at the surface. You see how wide apart this green and red line is? There's a little extra too much dry air in this point, which causes the lifting condensation level to be too high, the cloud base to be too high. Usually indicates you're going to have an elevated hailer event, big hail. Now this only says 2.5 inches in diameter. Depending on the hour I pick and the spot I pick, it's gone up to 4 inches. So there's going to be some big hail in some of these. But that's, at least that helps to limit the tornado threat up here due to that fact early on. Again, this is around the midnight hour. Now as moisture continues to pile in and those lifting condensation levels lower, we're going to have to watch southwest Oklahoma and anything that develops in western or central Oklahoma. There's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. The model I'm not impressed with as far as what it's producing here. Just like last night I had a beef with it, I still do. It does have a somewhat of a signal, but they're not nearly as strong as they should be in this environment. So, but the timing on that at least is somewhat in the ballpark. From around 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning is activity here in central and west central Oklahoma before it starts to move east on 35. Now, what I'm going to do is show, I think, what is going to be a better representation. And we looked at this last night, and I liked its output the best, even though it still wasn't perfect. So here we go. So this is where we have supercell storms breaking out in west central Oklahoma around 2 o'clock in the morning, so similar to the other model. But you see there's a lot more of them, and they're actually in the central Oklahoma. They don't just magically, mysteriously die off here in the Oklahoma City metro area. So there's, let's see, we're looking at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning as they move through. And by 5, they should be east of I-35. And 6 o'clock, you see how they diminish, those supercells do diminish once they get probably east of Shawnee and just west of Tulsa. So that's good news for you guys out there. And then the rest of the cluster, just random storms, just continues out into Arkansas. Probably just pockets of hail and wind with that. So this is what I'm concerned about. We get any supercell type signals showing up in the model data. It's never a good sign, especially with this environment where potential tornadoes do exist. So let's see. So that's the latest with that. Let me look to see if this has come in yet. Okay, let's go. So during the springtime, I like to use the Texas Tech WRF, and that keeps things fairly quiet through 8 o'clock this evening. So then we're going to see what it does in the next couple hours when it comes in. By the way, there's going to be some snow with this system. And if you look out here in northwest Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle, you've got some snow. This is the model blend, so it doesn't quite go out to Woodward, but I think Woodward, you guys will see at least some snow on the grass. We're not talking about a whole lot, but you can see the storm will continue out to southern Colorado, northern New Mexico. So this storm is pretty powerful. It does have some cold air with it. All right, so let's go back to this guy here, and let's put in a couple of these other little things we can look at. At this point, I'm just kind of waiting for that new data to come in here real quick. Okay, the significant tornado parameter. So we looked about that on a bigger scale. Here's a smaller scale version of that. So here's around the midnight hour. You can see all these brighter colors indicate potential for tornado in this region. Now, why is it not up here in northwest Oklahoma where we saw those storms? Well, because they'll be behind the cold front, number one, and two, those storms will be elevated. So let's see, there's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's 3 o'clock in the morning, and 4 o'clock in the morning. So this is the I-35 corridor that runs right through here. So you can see it's running right over the interstate. By the time we head to 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, it pretty quickly moves off to the east, and like we said, diminishes rather fast in Tulsa. So any storms that continue during that time period should weaken below that type of a criteria. Okay, let's see what else we have for you. Let's take a look at temperatures. So temperatures look pretty good today. I'm going to zoom in to, let's go this guy. All right, like we talked about chilly this morning, but here, look at this in the afternoon. How about that? 76 degrees, 5 o'clock. Wow, great day out there. Now it's going to be a little breezy. I'll show you the winds here in a second. As that front kind of works in from the north and west overnight tonight, it does cool things down up here in northwest Oklahoma. But by 6 o'clock in the morning, it starts to kind of slowly try to move into central Oklahoma. It has a hard time. It's kind of falling apart, but we do cool down anyway, just in general, because we get some dry air from the dry line that comes in tonight into tomorrow morning. They both kind of fall apart here over the metro. So east side could still be kind of muggy, for example, whereas the west side could be, hey, it feels great out here. As we head into the period on Wednesday, you do see it's kind of cold. Remember, we had some snow for the Panhandle, but we don't get snow here, but we do get a touch of that cold air. So daytime temperatures on Wednesday are going to be brutal. For the afternoon, we're back into the mid to low 40s. Yikes. Now, you early planters, I'm going to go into Thursday morning, and here we go. So here's 6 a.m. We've got the 30s out there across a large area of the state. So that's, it's getting that close period for those sensitive plants. Any plants that doesn't like temperatures that cold. So keep that in mind. You have to protect them or bring them in. Then we head into Thursday itself. It's a quick rebound back into the 50s, so not a bad day, but it will be another cold night Thursday night and a Friday morning with, once again, some 30s out there across the state. All right, so that, the wind, I was going to show you the wind. And let's do wind and wind gusts. All right, so the wind today, it's not all that strong yet, but as with time, it should pick up this afternoon, especially this evening from the south and southeast direction. It really picks up around midnight and then points onward as the whole system kind of moves on in. So that's expected. We'll see what it kind of does with the potential wind gusts with those storms and what's capable. There's midnight hour. Let's see. Obviously, a lot windier in northwest Oklahoma during the early morning hours. The model's got winds up around 60. Now, this is all elevated. It won't reach to the surface, but it just means it's going to be a lot of wind with this storm system that comes through. And then on Wednesday afternoon, boy, it's got it windy out there. Western Oklahoma winds up around 50 miles per hour. So Wednesday afternoon is just going to be a raw day across the western half of the state when you factor in the winds. We can actually look at wind chill might even show up in that case. Let's do that here real quick. My goodness, that's so rude. We have it 70s today. It's going to feel like 25 degrees, 21 degrees in Woodward. And out here in the metro, feel like 40 on the east side and 32 on the west side. So Wednesday's not pleasant, man. That's just brutal. Ugh. Nasty. Sheesh. Okay, so that's a look at your rude awakening for Wednesday. Just make sure you bundle up. There's wind chill values in the 30s and 20s overnight. Into Thursday morning. Like I talked about, it's just flat out chilly, right? All right, and then of course we warm up and things are much better for Thursday, even though it does feel a little cool to you. So jacket weather definitely back on the table. So if you packed up the coat, you have to get them back out at least for one day. All right, let's take a look, see if that other model's come in yet. It has. Oh, that's not it. Still waiting. Oh, it's like, come on, man, come on. I was hoping to get this in before I wrap up. See if any of the other parameters are around. That takes me to 10 p.m. Nope, still not. Alright, so that won't make it in time. That's fine. It is what it is. It's an old saying I like to use all the time. Keeps me sane. It does show the significant tornado parameter, though, by 9 p.m., increasing here in southwest Oklahoma. So I'll have to watch for any storms that develop, again, as we approach the midnight hour, because they'll be in that highlighted sweet spot area for potential tornadic development. Now, here's something I didn't talk about earlier, but let's go ahead and do this right now. What do you do? All right, you're new here. You're like, look, you show me a bunch of pretty maps, a lot of colors, a lot of jargon. What's the bottom line, dude? Okay, so bottom line is tonight we should have some thunderstorms. All right, they'll be scattered in nature, won't be widespread. It means some of you won't even hear a thunder at all. But they'll start out in western Oklahoma and they'll move east into central Oklahoma by the time we head to the 2 to 3 to 4 a.m. hour. It'll be progression through that window. The potential for tornadoes ride with that window of time. The hail threat is higher up in northwest Oklahoma because there'll be elevated storms early on, whereas here in central Oklahoma we'll have still the hail threat with it, but we're also going to have the tornado threat with it and possibly some damaging wind here and there just outside of a tornado issue. Let's see, and if you live in eastern Oklahoma, Tulsa, you get some storms in the morning. What's left, but we get at daybreak, but they won't be nearly as severe. They may not even be severe at all by that point. So that's good news for you guys. Let's see what else. Temperatures warm today in the 70s, and then the cool tonight. Now, what do you do? Obviously, if you have a storm shelter and you haven't cleaned it out, today's the day to do it. You better get busy. You'll need to use my weather app. It's free. It's called AT's Weather to Go. It actually predicts the tornadoes before an actual official warning comes out. It uses proprietary algorithms, and it'll give you a heads up, give you a twisted storm alert, give it a rating 1 to 10. If it's anything over a 7 or over, you better hit the deck, or get under dirt, hit the deck though. And then if it's less than that, just watch it very carefully because it means it's ramping up. So just pay attention to that indicator. And then once a tornado has been sighted and or confirmed very strongly by Doppler radar, if the radar isn't within that small area of geographic extent that it covers, then the Weather Service will issue a tornado warning. So this kind of gives you extra minutes. It could be up to 15, 20 minutes sometimes. I've watched it happen. So that's a lot of time to prepare. All right, so if you don't have a storm shelter, well, it's always the center part of your home, the lowest floor. It can be a bathroom, it can be a closet, it can be a bathtub. The old school thought of grabbing a mattress and throwing it on top of you, it's great. Why do we do that? It prevents from flying debris. If you're in the bathtub itself, you got kind of like a double protection, walls all around you. And you're not on an outside wall typically. So if you don't have a bathroom that's located on the center part of the home, a closet I'm sure is, or a staircase underneath it, those are all good. If you've got a friend or relative, and you're severe weather savvy, and you see a storm coming in and they say, hey, come on over anytime, well, just make sure you get there early. Don't wait and go out in the middle of the storm. That's too late. You might as well just stay put. If you can use my app, it'll get heads up. Now, also, you need to have backup redundancies, because you never know when you're going to lose power, lose Wi-Fi, your battery on your phone dies, you forget to charge it, whatever. So always have multiple ways to get severe weather. A NOAA weather radio is a great way. So when the Weather Service does issue the official warning, it's going to alert you, and you can program those to your specific county. So make sure that you get one of those. Now, my particular app will actually warn your specific GPS location, in other words, your lat lon. So if you're at home, exactly your home address. It won't warn a whole county if the tornado is not going to affect the whole county. It only warns the people in that path, so it's very specific. So if you get that warning, pay big time attention. Whereas a tornado warning can be encompassing a much larger area. It's a big polygon, and you may not even be affected by the storm at all. And you may hear the siren sound. Now remember, the sirens are made for daytime people that have been living under a rock when it comes to the weather. That's it. It's a last resort, last minute, and they do fail. So don't put all your eggs in that basket, especially at nighttime. You may not even hear it. Now, I happen to live next to a siren, and when I hear, and I'm sleeping, and I think I've slept through 2 events where I was woken up by that siren sound. Back when I was working at a TV station, because we do shift work, and to hear that thing go off, you're just like in a dead of sleep. You want to talk about panic? The first thing, of course, I do is I run to go pull up radar, can find out, is this really coming for me? And then do I need to hit the dirt? So. That's what I do as a meteorologist. Now, you might want to just spend your time, short amount of time you have, to get stuff ready, and then look at radar, and then you can, check out. The scientist in me is like, I'm going to go look at the data first, and then my anxiety can either go up or it can go down really quick. But that's just kind of how I do it. Let's see, what else? Springtime, we will have these type of events. A lot of times you will see tornadoes in the forecast, and they won't materialize. Remember Saturday, we had tornadoes expected. Again, I don't know what anybody else says. I don't know what they said. I don't know if they were promising you tornadoes in western Oklahoma or whatever, or even central Oklahoma. I have no idea. All I know is that when I was talking about the tornadoes, I was highlighting the Panhandle would be seeing several supercell storms with tornadoes, and as they cross the border, that last tier of counties may briefly see one before they kind of die out. There was one warning that went across the border in southwest Oklahoma, but I think it died out right before it got across the border, the tornado part of it, and then the storms themselves kind of collapsed. So there will be times you'll see tornadoes in the forecast, and it'll be up over a big area. Just know that there's a lot of specifics and details embedded within that. So it's not that there's a cry wolf situation, or if there is an over-exaggeration. That's not always the case. It's usually a broad brush picture for safety, and then as we get closer to the event, everything kind of gets narrowed down, both in window and timing, as we get better data, and then we start to get into a nowcast mode. Nowcasting means I look at the radar, I can predict from an hour from now where it's going to be. We have some high-res models that can go about to 2 hours. Well, they'll be, and if they'll strengthen or weaken, that's new in development stages. So we have that at our fingertips, but otherwise we got old school radar, speed and that kind of deal. And then we can track it down to not only your neighborhood, down to the intersections, that kind of stuff. Technology we just did not have, a decade ago, and we've got it now. So we're good. So we use it here in this market in Oklahoma City heavily. Now, other parts of the country, you're not going to quite get this kind of severe weather coverage. We are unique in that aspect. So I know you may get burned out a little bit at times, but when you got tornadoes, every year, there's only been, I think, 2 years we didn't see any or one at all across Oklahoma, and that was a freak event, which is fun. I like those kind of freak events. But they usually always average out. We do get a handful of tornadoes every year, and they like Oklahoma, but they also like other parts of the country too. We're really hyped up on the weather. All right, so that was all I want to say about that. So if you're new and you kind of just didn't know the ins and outs of everything, that's what it was. And real quick here, Weather Service did update the graphics like I talked about. They changed it to a enhanced risk to match the Storm Prediction Center up here in northern Oklahoma, from Stillwater to Clinton, slight risk everywhere else, up to baseball size hails. They did increase their hail size, and they kept their winds around 60 miles an hour, and they kept the tornado threat on the low side, but low doesn't mean zero. I still think we're going to see at least a couple. Let's see, timing. We also talked about it being kind of late, so from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. in this region, and then from 10, it's got a big swath from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. over a larger area. Here in Oklahoma City itself is probably closer. The window really won't open up, I don't think, until midnight. It'll be after midnight. So again, that's why most of us will be asleep during this event. Let's see, they did mention a little bit of rainfall flooding potential up here in northern Oklahoma on Tuesday from all of that. So, and then of course widespread rain. So that's the latest with their graphics that just came out with that. And let me see if this model came in, and if not, I'm going to call it, and I'll just look at it later. Okay, so it's got those storms at midnight breaking out here in northwest Oklahoma. These are all hail producers, so it's basically saying the same thing the other models had said, and it's just now starting to get some development here at midnight in southwest Oklahoma, so I do expect a little bit more to break out here, and those will move into central Oklahoma overnight while we sleep. All right, that's it. I do plan on being live tonight and covering these tornadoes should they occur. It'll be a long night for me, but hey, that's what I do. All right, listen, thanks again for all the stars and the love. I see you on Facebook. I appreciate that, as always, and you guys on YouTube and everything else. Make sure you like and share this video with your friends and family. Tell them about me and AT's weather, how they can get hype-free, non-anxiety weather broadcasts and severe weather coverage that I can actually put you to sleep. My voice will actually soothe you to that point. Almost does myself. All right, you guys be careful the rest of the afternoon. We'll talk again later on tonight. All right, good afternoon. See ya.